بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله والسلام عليه تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلوات الله والسلام عليه وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Concerning this issue of where Allah is, then no doubt it is an important aspect of the identity of the Muslim because it's something that's connected to the belief in Islam. Everything that's connected to a person's aqidah, it is of the utmost importance. It's imperative. So before even beginning, anytime you see or you come to hear of a masjid or group or an individual focusing upon everything except the aqidah, and the aqidah is compromised, either what's being said, what's being believed, or it's just not being spoken about and addressed, then you should know that that person, that group, that masjid, they're not on the most important sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. So when we talk about where Allah is, where Allah Azza wa Jal is, then it's an issue, as we mentioned in the Khutbatul Jum'ah today, that should be close to the heart and the mind and the very existence of any Muslim man and any Muslim woman. Especially here in the UK, the challenge is even bigger. And where you brothers come from, in Pakistan, in the Indo-Pakistani area, where Hindus and Sikhs have affected a lot of what people believe, it is an issue that's imperative and it can't be messed around with, it can't be played around with. I mentioned today in the khutbah of al-Jum'ah of a statement of a person who is a person of the Sunnah, inshallah, but in a state of anger. They said to the person that they were arguing with, we'll let the big man upstairs judge between us. They didn't mean that Allah was a man, they didn't mean that. But that kind of statement is a statement that would never come off of the tongue of someone who knew the importance of how we describe Allah Azza wa Jalla. You were lucky you weren't there. I was lucky I wasn't there. The things that we say and that we take for granted is a direct result of not knowing our aqidah. And the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, used to make those mistakes in the beginning of Islam. It would rain and one of them would say, it rained because of that star, it rained because of that planet. Some of them would say, I swear by my father, I swear on my father's grave. Some of them will say, it is as Allah wanted and as you wanted, Ya Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Some of them will say, Ya Rasulullah, we're in the jihad, we're about to meet the enemy. They're right over there, we can see them. And we also see the tree that they hung their swords and their weapons on, trying to get power and strength from the tree, the kuffar. Make us a tree the way they have a tree. The companions used to make these kinds of mistakes. And every time they made that mistake, no matter what was going on at that moment, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam addressed it. He said to the man who said, MashaAllah, and how you want, Ya Rasulullah. He didn't say the man loves me, he just doesn't know. He took his finger and he pointed in that man's chest and he said, did you make me a partner with Allah? Say MashaAllah by himself. The man said, I could feel him pointing in my chest. They were on the battlefield, about to meet the enemy, when some of the Muslims said, make us a tree. Make us a tree like they have a tree. Shirkum billah. He said, you people have just asked me, just like Musa was asked by Bani Israel, when Musa went up to the mountain, and in his absence, his people of Tawheed and the religion, they made a calf to worship, to seek protection from the calf and in the calf. He said, you did just what they did. The Prophet didn't do what many of the political groups would do today. He didn't say, okay, we're in the land of jihad, we're about to fight the kuffar, I don't want to divide the people with these issues of aqidah, I'm just going to be quiet, because if I tell them don't ask this question, some may get upset and go the other way. He didn't do that. If the man came and urinated in the masjid, sallallahu alaihi wasallam would deal with him in an easy way, in a nice way. But when people fell into issues that went against the Aqidah of al-Islam, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to deal with those issues. That same man who urinated in the masjid, the Bedouin, he was impressed by the way the Nabi treated him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then after being impressed, he made a dua. Oh Allah, don't have mercy on me and Muhammad, and don't have mercy on anyone else. The Nabi wasn't quiet at that point. He allowed the man to urinate in the masjid, akramakumullah, but when the man talked about the rahmah of Allah, a characteristic of Allah, and he wanted to make it just on him and the Nabi said, no, don't say that. You have restricted something that is wide and massive and expansive. Allah's rahmah wasi'at kulla shay'in. Allah's rahmah has extended and has touched everything. Kuffar, jinn, malaika, everything. So don't say that, because the statement was a statement that went against the Aqidah. So the point here is, before even dealing with this issue where Allah is, it is an important issue. You see a group of people, a jama'ah, a madhab, people, they are having this problem with classes like this, khutbahs about these issues, then you should take that as a sign that there are other than the sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. May Allah ta'ala establish our hearts and firmly upon al-Islam and the sunnah. The other issue is what we mentioned today in the khutbatul Jummah. And that is, all of the prophets and all of the messengers came to clarify and to clean up and to deal with the aqidah of the people. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. We sent a Rasul to every nation, every community. And those messengers told all of their people collectively and consistently, worship Allah and don't worship the Taghut. The Taghut is any and everything that is worshipped other than Allah. It could be the moon, it could be the monkey, it could be the sun, it could be money, it could be power. Don't worship the Tawaghit, anything other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Ta'ala threatened the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam the same way he threatened the other prophets and his messengers. Because Allah is the Khaliq and everything else is from the Alameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Al-Alameen, everything except Allah. Everything except Allah. Allah is Al-Khaliq and everything else is the Alameen. His Arush, the Malaika, the Jinn. Allah Ta'ala is not sharing in his Ubudiyah or his Uluhiyah, anything with his creation. So he threatened the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all of the prophets and all of the messengers that he sent. And he said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ وَلَتُكُنَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. It has been revealed to you, Ya Muhammad, and it was revealed the same way to those who went before you of all of the prophets and messengers. If you make shirk, or if they make shirk, it's going to destroy all of your deeds. That's the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the prophets, the ulul azm from the Rasul, Ibrahim, Nuh, Muhammad, Isa, Musa. You make shirk in any shape, form, or fashion, you're going to be in trouble. So the aqidah, Ummatul Islam, the aqidah. And in this issue of aqidah, don't be of the people who present your aqidah to every Amr, Bakr, and Zayd from the people to play with you. And Imam Malik, as we're going to mention, inshallah, was the Imam of the dunya. And Imam Malik had the ability to debate with anyone. I don't know if you guys, since I've been here, I've not seen a pretzel, a New York pretzel. You know the pretzel. We put mustard on the pretzel. And Imam Malik can take anybody and twist them up like a pretzel with his knowledge of the Quran and his knowledge of the Sunnah. But the people who were lesser than him in academic prowess and in knowledge used to come and say, debate us. I want to know about Allah's istiwa, Allah being over his throne. I want to debate you. Just one ayat. And Imam Malik will put his fingers in his ears and say, I won't debate you in half of an ayat. I know my religion. I know those 7 ayat that Allah Ta'ala mentioned in which he's establishing Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. Ar-Rahman is over his throne. I know the tafsir of Abdullah ibn Abbas concerning that ayat. I'm not in need of what you have to say. Sahih al-Bukhari and the tafsir of al-Imam Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Abdullah ibn Abbas said, istiwa, it means ala alayhi wartafa'a. It means that Allah rose above and elevated. I don't need you to come and debate with me and discuss with you and feel some goodness about myself and who won and who didn't win and whose group had the intisar. I don't care about that. Then he asked the other man who came, Imam Malik, who wanted to debate him. And Imam Malik said, okay, if I debate you and you defeat me and I follow you after you convince me, and then the third man came and he debated us, what should we do? He said we should follow him. And then if another man came and defeated all three of us, what should we do? He said all three of us should follow him. And Imam Malik said, hey, I'm not like that. That's not my religion. Every time someone comes with the ability to out-debate me, I'm going to change and follow him and follow him and follow the next one and the next one and the next one. So from the asul of the way of Ahl Sunnah, Ahlul Hadith, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't take your religion, your aqidah, don't get into being the people who want to just debate for the sake of debating. Every dalil that the Nabi would have brought some of those people of Quraysh, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they wouldn't have believed in him, even if Allah would have come down from the sky. Bani Israel, if a fire came down from the sky, if a book was revealed, if the sky started sending down treasures, if Allah came from the sky, they're not going to believe. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرِ. Remind them if the remembrance benefits. As for debating for the sake of debating, don't be like that. Don't be like that in your religion. This is the way of the people who are astray. So concerning where Allah is, this issue has been dealt with extensively in the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla, as we mentioned some of the proofs earlier today in the khutbah of Al-Jum'ah, the blessed khutbah of Al-Jum'ah, those ayats. إِلَيْهِ يَسْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحِ يَرْفَعُهُ. To Allah goes up, arises the good words and the good deeds, He raises them up to Him. We hope and we pray, Yawmul Qiyamah, with our deficiencies and our mistakes, that Allah Azza wa Jal puts that in our mizan of hasanat. That from the good words is to tell this community without fear and without hesitation. Like it who wants to like it, hate it whoever wants to hate it. Your Lord, your Khaliq, your Ilah, your Rabb, He is above the 7 heavens, as He has described in all of those ayat. أَأَمَنْتُم مَّن فِي السَّمَاءِ إِن يَخْسِفُ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضِ. That's one of the ayats that we didn't describe, that we didn't bring. One of the dalils and one of the ways that established in the Quran, it is established that Allah is over the throne, are many of those ayats that say that Allah is fis sama, like the one we just mentioned in Surah Al-Mulk. Do you people of Quraysh and other than Quraysh, are you satisfied? Are you safe and secure that the one who is fis sama, the one who is over the heavens, do you think that He won't cause the earth to open up and to swallow you? Are you safe and secure? There are many ayat of the Quran that describe Allah as being fis sama, and the meaning of fis sama here is over the heavens. Every dalil from the Quran that we mentioned today, people who have innovations in their minds, people who are following the Mu'tazila, these people of the Asha'ira, they're going to give you something to say about all of those ayat, all of the ahadith. They're going to make up things about poetry that has no place in the poetry of the Arabs, in the language of the Arabs. They're going to do everything just to prove their point. And all we do is bring the simple formula, Ya Abdullah. Did the companions understand that? Did the companions say that? Can you bring one instance in which the companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave that tafsir and that ta'wil and that tahrif and that understanding? Because if you could, we can start to discuss. But you just pushing back everything that Allah Azza wa Jalla said, you're on the way of Iblis. You're on the way of Ahlul Kitab. You're on the way of those people who Allah Ta'ala has threatened in the book of Allah and the Sunnah. لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله. Don't put yourselves before Allah and His Messenger. So this issue is important. Proof that it's important, again, is that the scholars of Islam, they used to write about this issue. They used to write books specifically detailing where Allah is. Where Allah is. Great scholar from the Hanbali Madhab, Al-Imam Muwaffiq al-Din, Abu Muhammad al-Maqdisi. He's from those Hanabila. Tremendous scholar. He wrote a book called Ithbat Sifatul Ulu, establishing that Allah is Alin. Allah is above. He brought those ayat and those ahadith, and he refuted those people. Al-Imam al-Dhahabi, he wrote a book, Kitab al-Ulu, same type of book, in which he brought those ayats and those ahadith, and the statements of the companion that support, they knew that Allah was over His throne, that's over the seven heavens, in a way that befits His majesty. And then there were those scholars who wrote about this issue in books that were not specifically about this issue, but they used to always mention it. In the books of Al-Aqidah, Sarih al-Sunnah, Al-Imam al-Tabari, Sharh al-Sunnah, Al-Imam al-Barbahari, Al-Lalakali, all of those scholars, Ibn al-Khuzaymah, Kitab al-Tawheed, went extensively to refute these people. Ibn al-Qayyim, he has a book from the best things that mention this issue. If you want to see the refutations against those people and what they say, Ibn al-Qayyim's book, Ijtima' Juyush al-Islamiyya, Fi Ghazwi al-Mu'attala wa Jahmiyya. So the scholars of Islam, they didn't leave this issue unturned. It was one of the big issues that the people of the Sunnah fought against the people of innovation with. It's only paralleled and in competition with, was the Quran created or not created? That was a big issue with those innovators, the people of innovation. Was the Quran created? Was it not created? Well, did the companions talk about that issue? Did the companions bring that to the table? Then why are you doing it? There was a guy during the time of Imam Ahmed in this fitna. He also has something to do with this. Ibn Abi Dawood, he was a judge, and he was close to the leader of the Muslims during that time, who supported this idea that the Quran was created. When they used to bring Imam Ahmed to debate in chains and in shackles, and Imam Ahmed would say to the Amir al-Mu'mineen, I just want to ask this man one question, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, because he's not from the people of knowledge. He was a judge. He's not from the people of knowledge. Just want to ask him one question. Go ahead. What's the question? This thing about the Quran being created. Did the companions talk about it? And if they did, where is the dalil? Bring the chain of narration. And if they didn't talk about it, then you're saying that you're more knowledgeable than they are because you preceded them to it. The Amir al-Mu'mineen just started smiling like he got him. And Imam Ahmed, he has him. That same man was fighting people over this issue. Ibn Abi Dawood, one of the great linguistic people, he was a Nahwi, a man of the language. He said, I tried to discuss with this man, Ibn Abi Dawood, I tried to discuss with him about Allah's istiwa, Allah being above. And he tried to use a poem, a line of poetry that they use. They don't use ayats in the ahadith, they use poetry in the intellect. If Allah is above, then that means that Allah is in a place and things are surrounding Him. And He's like a created thing and using their intellect. He said, I tried to deal with him about this poetry that they're using, and al-istiwa, to be above, it doesn't mean al-istila in the Arabic language. It doesn't even mean what they're saying. There's no proof in the Arabic language that they're using it for, to support it. So the point here is, our scholars, past and present, have dealt with this issue. If it wasn't important, the ulama of al-Islam would not have dealt with it. But our call here today is, let's deal with it the way the scholars dealt with it. Not just arguing with people for the sake of arguing. Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen. Just bring your proofs. Let's support what we believe and why we believe it with ayat of the Quran and ahadith and proof that this is the way that the companions understood those issues, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. Now dealing with and presenting some of the many ahadith, and they are many, that support and prove that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sunnah clearly indicates that Allah is over his throne in a way that befits his majesty, and what was collected by Imam ad-Darimi, one of the Imams of the Sunnah, on the authority of Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali radiyallahu anhu. The Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in this authentic hadith, man lam yarham man fil ard lam yarhamhu man fis samai. Whoever does not have mercy upon those who are in the earth, the one who is in the sky, over the heavens, won't have mercy on him. Not a single companion say, Ya Rasulullah, how is Allah in the sky? What does it mean Allah is in the sky? Because they knew the understanding of the Arabic. They knew that the harfu jar fi means ala, to be upon. They didn't understand that it meant inside of anything. Wasiru fil ard. Wanzuru kayfa kana aqibatul mukaththibin. Travel travel inside of the earth and see what was the end result of those who denied and rejected. When you read that ayat, travel in the earth, fi. No one understands that the ayat is telling you to travel in the earth. It means travel on top of the earth. That same fi on top of the earth is the same understanding that Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali and the rest of those companions, may Allah be pleased with them, understood about this hadith as they understood those ayats of the Quran. That the one who is over the heavens won't have mercy upon you if you don't have mercy upon those who are in the earth. And this hadith, the Nabi used to address his companions with this hadith many times. There was a companion. His kunya is Abu Mas'ud al-Ansari. He was hidden a slave of his. And he heard someone say, hey, Abu Mas'ud. He said, I was so angry that I didn't even look. And I didn't understand and I didn't know who was saying it. I kept hitting the slave. The voice got close and it said, oh, Abu Mas'ud. He said, I still didn't understand. Who was it? He said, and then I looked and it was the Nabi. And the Nabi told me, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, i'lam Aba Mas'ud. Inna Allaha aqdaru alayhi minka ala hadha al-ghulam. Allah has more power over you, Abu Mas'ud. You're beating this slave. Allah has more power over you than you do over this slave. So have mercy upon those who are in the earth, and Allah will have the one in the heavens will have mercy upon you. The ant is crawling on the desk. Leave him. The spider, you can pluck him out and push him out of the window. Don't kill him, leave him. You don't have to kill the bee, although he can harm you. Don't kill him. If you show rahmah to Allah's creation, Allah will show rahmah to you, the one who is in the heavens, over and above the heavens. From what proves Allah Azza wa Jal is over the throne in a way that befits his majesty, from the mouth, from the lisan of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The lisan, that is the Arabic, that is clear, is again what was collected by Imam Muslim on the authority of Abu Huraira. He says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ مَا مِنْ رَجُلٍ يَدُ امْرَأَتُهُ إِلَى فِرَاشِهَا فَتَأْبَى عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا كَانَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ سَاخِطٍ عَلَيْهَا حَتَّى يَرْضَى. I swear by the one who my soul is in his hands. Stop here. The people are going to say, Allah doesn't have hands. This is just not about where Allah is. It's about describing Allah the way he described himself in the Quran. Describing Allah the way the Prophet described him in the authentic Sunnah. And stopping there. It's not just about al-istiwa. It's about Allah's hands and his characteristics and what he does. Allah comes down at the last third of every night in a way that befits his majesty. Does he leave the throne? Does he not leave the throne? When he comes down, does he leave that throne? He didn't make that your job and your business to ask those questions. We have big fish to fry that are relevant and they're right in front of us, in front of our noses, things we should occupy ourselves with. From a person's good Islam is leaving alone that which does not concern him. Allah didn't make you responsible to know the details of the qadr. Allah didn't make you responsible knowing the details of all these issues. Just establish what was established in the Quran and the Sunnah without changing the meaning, without denying it, without giving it some interpretation that you can't support it with what the companions understood. So he swore by Allah Azza wa Jal, who our souls are in his blessed hands, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said that any man who invites his wife to have relationships with him, he wants to have relationships with his wife, and she has the nerves and the audacity to say no. She refuses. Allah's Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who is over the heavens is angry with her until her husband becomes pleased with her. That's a clear dalil, again, in Sahih Muslim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from his characteristic, is that he has hands, and that Allah ta'ala, he becomes angry in a way that befits his majesty, and that Allah ta'ala, he becomes angry in a way that befits his majesty over his throne. And one of the issues that makes him angry is the fact that a woman would prevent herself from giving her husband his rights. Why would the Nabi say these words if he didn't mean what the words are actually saying? From the many ahadith, what Al-Imam Ahmed collected on the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet said, if a person dies, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the malaika come to him after he dies. If he was a religious and a righteous man, a rajul salih, if he was religious, the angels will say, ukhruji ayyatuha ar-ruh at-tayyiba. O spirit of this good man, you good spirit, come out of his body. And he'll come out in a good way. Then it would be said to that spirit, abshiri bi ruh wa rayhan wa rabb ghayr al-ghadban. Have glad tidings of good smells. Have glad tidings of a good spirit. Have glad tidings of a Lord who is not angry with you because you were a righteous man, your aqeedah was correct, and you did the good deeds and the good actions. It would be continuously said to him those things, that he has a good heart and he has a good soul, and Allah is not angry with him. And then that soul will start to be taken to each of the heavens above. And at each heaven, the door will be locked and permission will be sought for him to enter into that particular place. Every time permission is sought for him to enter, it will be said, who is that? And it will be said to him, welcome the soul that is a good soul, a decent soul. And that will continuously be said to him until he comes to the heaven where Allah Azza wa Jal is. That's what the Nabi said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who in his right mind, the individual that Allah Azza wa Jal has given him intellect, who in his right mind can understand that? Who in his right mind? And this is what the scholars of the Salaf used to say. If you're an individual who doesn't believe in these things that have been established in the Aqeedah of Islam, like seeing Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah, you don't believe in Shafa'ah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, the right way, the intercession. You don't believe in the fountain of the Nabi, Yawm al-Qiyamah. You don't believe in that. You change the meaning and you mess around and you play around. Those people who love each other for Allah's sake, they will be on mimbars made out of light, Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the right side of Allah. Both of his hands are right. You don't believe in those things. Those scholars used to say, people who deny it and reject it now in this dunya won't be of the recipients who get it in the hereafter. And they used to make dua against people. So as a Muslim, I'm reading, and you're reading this hadith in Al-Imam Ahmed's Musnad, that the good soul is taken out in a nice way. You have a good smell, you have a good soul. Your Lord is pleased with you, go up. He goes to each heaven. And as he elevates, they say, who is this? Welcome to the good soul. Until finally he reaches the last heaven where Allah is. And you come and say, Allah is not above. Allah is below, Allah is, we don't know where, we can't say that. It may be, Abdullah, you won't be of those people. This is an issue that should motivate and encourage a Muslim. Don't play around with your religion. Try to be of those people by making tawbah to Allah and asking him to forgive us. By being of the people who, if you do make a mistake, the mistakes that we don't make are the mistakes in which we're making shirk with Allah. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. Make dua and ask Allah, let my soul come out and you're pleased with my soul, and so forth and so on. As for who has the time to sit and to debate with every Amr, Bakr and Zayd about these issues? We don't have that time. We have to use our time trying to be of the recipients of these hadith. Another dalil, ikhwani, is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned, and that is that the Prophet ﷺ, in what was collected by the Imam al-Bukhari, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that inna fil jannati mi'ata daraja a'addaha Allahu ta'ala lil mujahideen fi sabilihi bayna kulli darajatayn kama bayna as-sama'i wal ard wa idha sa'altum Allah azza wa jalla fas'aluhu al-firdaus fa innahu fi wasat al-jannah wa a'la al-jannah wa fawqahu arsh ar-rahman wa minhu tafajjaru anharu al-jannah. If you people only knew, he said that the Jannah, in the Jannah, it is 100 levels. The Jannah is 100 levels. Did Allah make it our responsibility to figure that out? How is the Jannah 100 levels? Just what has been mentioned about the Jannah is from the affairs of the unseen, and our intellect is mahdud, mahsur. The Jew, this is the aqeedah of the Jew. He came and he tried to make istihza. He said, Muhammad, you told us in this Quran that the people of Al-Jannah, that they're going to eat. They're going to eat and they're going to drink. Everything that eats and drink, human beings, we know that they have to defecate and they have to let it out as waste. He was trying to be funny, trying to be sarcastic. The way of the Jew, put in his intellect. When a Nabi or a Rasul tells you something, just be quiet. Inna Allah ya'murukum an tadhbahu al-baqara. Bani Israel found a man dead. They wanted to know who killed this man. They went to the Nabi and the Rasul, who single-handedly saved them by Allah's permission. They went through the Red Sea with that man, and they defeated Fir'aun by Allah's permission. They saw his staff turn into a snake and devour Fir'aun's snakes. They saw all of those signs. After all of that, if that man tells you something, go in the corner and stand on your head. Just go and stand on your head. Have we not seen enough of the mu'jizat of the Nabi? The water coming out of his fingers, the moon being split. What's going on in the world today that he told us about? This Quran, have we not seen enough to know? Don't ask questions when the Nabi, when the Rasul says something, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. But that's the way of the Jews, that's the way of the Yahud. So the Jewish man said, you mentioned in this Quran, لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ فِيهَا وَلَدَيْنَا النَّزِيدُ. They have whatever they want, they eat this, they drink that, all kinds of, anyone who eats and drinks, it has to come out as waste. So what you have to say about that? Yeah, Muhammad, about my strong intellect, I got you now. The Nabi didn't apologize, he didn't debate. He said, Wallahi, and it's like that in Jannah as well. When people of the Jannah eat and drink, it's going to come out, but it's going to come out in the form of sweat. And the sweat is going to be better than the best misk of this dunya. Going to smell good, because these affairs over there are not like they are here. So don't use your brain. 100 levels of the Jannah. Allah is like this and Allah does that. It's not for you to go after those things, and it's not for you to debate. Just leave it. We hear and we obey, and that's it. And the Jannah, 100 levels. Allah has prepared them for the mujahideen, fi sabilillah. Between each of these levels is like the distance between the heavens and the earth. Can you imagine that? Can you fathom that? To get from this dunya, this heaven, to the next one takes 500 years. On the fastest riding beast. Can you imagine that? Can't imagine that. And then there are 7. And then after that, there's the Jannah. And then after that, there's the throne of Allah. You can't imagine that. It's not for you. And that's the kibr of Bani Adam. That's the arrogance of Bani Adam. That he doesn't know his place. Just stay. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, the companion, he told us, Ikhwani, ittabi'u wa la tabtadi'u. Faqad kufitum. Follow and don't invent. Don't introduce. Because you have been left with enough. Between each Jannah is like the distance between the heavens and the earth. So when you make dua to Allah, ask Allah for the Firdaus, because the Jannatul Firdaus is in the middle portion of the Jannah. So there are other sides of the Jannah, but Al-Firdaus is in the middle. And it's the highest level of the Jannah. And over that Firdaus is the throne of Allah. The throne of Allah is the roof of the Firdaus. So just for illustration purposes only, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثُلُ الْأَعْلَى. just for illustration purposes only. Laysa kamithlihi shay. This is not talking about Allah, but about his throne. Below are 7 heavens. And then there's the Jannah and different levels. And there's the Firdaus, which is in the middle and the highest portion of Al-Jannah. And then over that Firdaus is Allah's throne, and it represents the roof of the Firdaus. And over that throne, which is the biggest thing in the creation, is Allah in a way that befits his majesty. Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. Allahu alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal-ard wa ma baynahuma fi 6 ayamin thumma istawa ala al-arsh. Ma lakum min dunihi min waliyyin wa la shafi'. Afala tatadhakkarun. He went over his throne in a way that befits his majesty, and he's there in a way that only he knows the reality of it. What your job and my job is just to believe in it, just to accept it and to embrace it. From the many adillah, ikhwani, and then we come to the next point, inshallah ta'ala, is concerning this Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun in the Quran, Surah Al-Tahrim. She made dua to Allah Ta'ala, Rabbi ibni li indaka baytan fil jannah. Allah is over the throne. Asiya made dua, oh Allah, my Lord, build for me a house close to you, indaka fil jannah. Build for me a house close to you in Jannah, she said. The Jannah is above. And the lady said, build for me a house close to you in the Jannah. But it's not strange. If her husband, Fir'aun, la'natullah alayhi, if he knew that Allah Ta'ala was above based upon the dawah of Musa to him, because he disbelieved and he rejected that dawah, it's not strange that the believing woman who was his companion wouldn't know that. Allah Ta'ala is above the 7 heavens. As it relates to, like we mentioned today, these ahadith, they mentioned that the Nabi said that Allah was above the throne using the harfu jar fi, which means above here. It doesn't mean in, just as it doesn't mean travel inside of the earth. There are also a number of ahadith like the ayat that speak about elevating, things that are elevated. They're just too many. That gives the Muslim who has a aqidah that's salima and his intellect is salim, the su'ud of the actions and the deeds of the people. Al-Imam al-Hakim in his book Al-Mustadrak on the authority of Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu, he said that the Prophet told us sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ittaqu da'wat al-madhlum fa innaha tas'adu ila Allahi ka'annaha shiraratun. Beware and be afraid of the da'wah, the dua of a person that's oppressed, because it raises up and it elevates to Allah the same way that a spark goes up to Allah, the same way that a spark rises up. So if you can imagine this and you look at it through the prism of the eye of the Arabs who used to have their fires in the desert, and you see the smoke and the sparks coming off of the fire or off the wood, you see those sparks rising up, the shirara. The Nabi said, don't oppress people. And one hadith said that the dawah of the madhlum is accepted even if he's a fasiq or a kafir, even if he's a bad person or a disbeliever. There's no hijab between Allah and an oppressed individual. So beware of the dawah and the dua of a person who's oppressed, because that dua goes up to Allah just as the sparks rise up. Too many statements. The eloquence of the Nabi leaves these people speechless, as Ibrahim made that particular king during that time who said that he was the Lord, the Most High. He left him speechless. Allah, he causes the sun to rise from the east and set in the west. You do the other. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. He was speechless, couldn't say anything. Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam again, ikhwani, he said that Allah Ta'ala, he raises the deeds that you do during the night before the daytime. And the deeds that you do during the daytime, he raises them to him before the nighttime. So we're in the beginning of the night after praying Salat al-Maghrib. There are different deeds that we're going to do tonight. Pray Salat al-Maghrib, pray Salat al-Isha. You're going to read the Quran. You're going to make sunnah prayers. You're going to make dhikr. You're going to have relationships with your wives. You're going to visit individuals. You're going to invite people to come and eat with you. You're going to give salams. You're going to sneeze and say alhamdulillah. You're going to make tawbah ilallah tonight. Everything that you do tonight. Before Fajr time tomorrow, inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jal, every day, He accepts the deeds that you do in the night before the daytime. They go up to Him. And the deeds that you do in the course of the day, they go up to Allah for acceptance before the nighttime comes all the time. And there are so many ahadith in this regard. And we can go on and we can go on. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam in Bukhari and Muslim, Abu Huraira said that our Lord Allah, He comes down every single night. He comes down to the sama of this dunya, and He says, when there only remains 1/3 of the night, He says, is there someone making dua for me so that I can accept this dua? Is there someone who is asking me for something so I can give to him what he is asking for? Is there someone who's making istighfar so that I can forgive him? So He comes down. So we have Allah is above the throne, over the heavens. We have a hadith that the things rise up to Allah, the actions, the deeds, the statements, the dua rise up to Allah. And we have Allah coming down in a way that befits His majesty. The rahmah of Allah coming down. Isa ibn Maryam coming down. The rain, which is the barakah that comes from Allah, coming down. The hadith of Allah being over His throne are mutawatir. They're mutawatir, meaning they're not one hadith, two hadith, three hadith. There are a lot of hadith that accumulatively they are mutawatir. Some of them individually may be ahad, but is irrelevant. Collectively, they are mutawatir. Now we come to the issue that I think is just as important as the dalils from the Quran and the dalils from the Sunnah. Just as important, and that is how the companions understood those particular dalils. Did the companions understand that Allah Azza wa Jalla was everywhere and He was not above His throne? They understood that Allah Azza wa Jalla was over His throne. Authentic hadith in Sahih Muslim, famous hadith, the companion, Muawiyah ibn Hakam as-Sulami, may Allah be pleased with him. He was making the salat with the people, and he wasn't from the most knowledgeable of the companions. Doing the salat, he was talking and disturbing the people in the salat after someone sneezed. And he wanted the people to say, Yarhamakallah. And they didn't, because you weren't supposed to talk in the salat. And they were hitting him and giving him some actions to let him know, be quiet. So the man got upset in the middle of the salat while they were praying, trying to keep him calm and keep him quiet. He said, Wa thakalatkum ummahatukum. May your mothers lose all of you. While they were praying, he was upset. The Prophet finished the salat. He said to the man, come here. Very nicely and very gently, the man came. He said, these prayers, the salat, la yuslahu fiha shay'un min kalamin nas. Don't bring your own kalam in the salat. So dalil that scholars use, don't say anything in your language in the salat. Only do the salat in Arabic language. And if you don't know those dua, do your best to learn those du'as. Stick with the Arabic language. The salat has no room for the people of for the places of the people's kalam. The man said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm a human being, and I became upset with a slave girl of mine. She went out and she had my sheep and she was negligent. A wolf came and took the sheep off and ate my sheep. And I became angry with the girl and I slapped that girl. The Nabi said, bring the girl to me. The little girl came. The little girl, she's not a scholar. She's like our mothers. She's like our daughters and our wives. She doesn't have time to come to the masjid. She's not an individual who's a student of knowledge. She's not like that. She's just a little slave girl. She's not in charge of her own time. The Nabi said to that girl, testing her, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where is Allah, little girl? The little girl said, Allah is over the heavens, fis sama, over the heavens. The Nabi said to her, who am I? She said, you're Abdullah. He didn't say, who am I? She said, you're Hazan Nazir. You're Hazan Nazir. You didn't die. We're going to do the army. She didn't say that. She said, Ya Rasulullah, Abdullah. He said to the man, I'tiqha fa innaha mu'mina. Free this girl. She's a believer. She's a believer. That's the aqidah. That answers the answer of someone of Iman. Free that lady. She's a believer. So that's a dalil, ikhwani, a proof that this question can be asked. It's a proof that we have to teach our children where Allah is. Abdullah bin Abbas was with the Nabi on his camel, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on his horse. He said, hey, young boy, ya ghulam, I'm going to teach you some words. Remember Allah and Allah will remember you. Remember Allah, you'll find him in front of you. If you ask, ask of Allah. If you seek assistance of Allah. And know that if all the people came together to benefit you, they wouldn't be able to benefit you, young man, except with what Allah wrote for you from the Qadr. If they tried to harm you, they would never be able to harm you except with what Allah wrote and prescribed from you in the Qadr. The pens have been lifted and the ink is dry. He taught that little boy, he taught Abdullah ibn Abbas, that youngster, the Aqidah of al-Islam. Who Allah is, who Allah isn't. Taught him about the Qadr. That's your responsibility. Don't leave your children going to public school or just Islamic school. He goes to Islamic school and the people who are teaching him the curriculum is also corrupt in some instances. You, the father, uncle, brother, have to take the time out to sit down with your family and you say to your son, where is Allah? Tell me about the Dajjal. So we freed that lady. And this is not the only incident that happened. Where is Allah? The Prophet asked the question, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also the companion Abdullah ibn Umar. I told you earlier in the talk, Ikhwani, that the scholars of Islam wrote books about Allah is above his throne. And Imam al-Dhahabi was one of those individuals. He brought an authentic narration. The narration is Hasan. It is authentic. It's acceptable. Although the people who hate this type of aqidah want to bite on their fingers for this. Some of their sheikhs who work with hadith today, and I don't want to give any names, but they are the Bishr and Marisis of today. Bishr and Marisi, they have no shyness to come to a hadith and to say it's weak. No shyness to come to an ayat of the Quran and to say it's abrogated. To make any claim. No haya. Abdullah ibn Umar, he saw a boy, a man, a ra'i. He was responsible for the people's sheep and camels. He said, can we slaughter one of these to eat it? Can we slaughter one of them? The shepherd said, the owner of the camel, my master, he's not around. We can't slaughter it. He's not around. Abdullah ibn Umar said to the boy, tell your master, just tell him that the wolf came and ate it. If he asks you what happened, tell him the wolf came and ate it. The boy or the man, he looked up to the sky and he said, wa ain Allah? If I were to say that, where's Allah? Isn't Allah looking at me? He said to Abdullah ibn Umar, and where is Allah if I say that? Abdullah ibn Umar said, Ana ahaqqu an aqul ain Allah. I have more right to say where is Allah than you. What I'm asking you, I'm the one who should be saying where is Allah. And I shouldn't have asked you that. So he purchased the boy, slave, he purchased him. He purchased the camel, the thing that he wanted to eat, and he let him go and he gave the boy the camel. That narration is authentic. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu said, I have more right to say, where is Allah? That shepherd was a companion. He said, where is Allah if I did that? Allah is looking at me. And then you come and you say, you shouldn't ask this question. Al-Imam As-Suyuti said, this question shouldn't be put forward religiously. La, Al-Imam As-Suyuti ala ra's wal ayn. Tremendous scholar in Islam. There's not a science in Islam. Arabic language, tafsir, hadith, fiqh. This man, he excelled in everything, but he's a human being. And in Aqidah, he made some mistakes. May Allah Ta'ala forgive us and forgive him. And our religion is not the religion that the dalil is, Sheikh so-and-so said. That's not our religion. From the proofs of what the companions understood as our mother, Zainab bintu Jahsh. She was one of the 11 wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what was collected by Imam al-Bukhari, she used to brag, not in an arrogant way, but this was something peculiar to her and special to her. She used to brag to the wives of the Nabi and she used to say, your families, your awliya, your fathers, your uncles, your walis, your families married you to the Nabi. He came to your wali and he asked your wali for your hand in marriage and you got married to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by the permission of your walis, your awliya. She said, Allah married me to him from above the 7 heavens. And she's referring to the ayat in the Quran, فَلَمَّا قَضَى زَيْدُ مِنْهَا وَطْرًا زَوَّجْنَاكَهَا. Zayd ibn Haritha was her husband. and they were having misunderstandings and problems, Zayd would come to the Nabi complaining, and he would say, Ittaqillah wamsik alayka zawjik. Fear Allah, be patient with her. Don't divorce her, be patient. Until neither one of them can handle it anymore and they got divorced. After she did her iddah, she completed, Allah revealed this ayat. When Zayd divorced her and she was finished with her iddah, the ayat said, we married you to her. The Nabi just went into her house and read the ayat. Allah said today in the Quran, when Zayd was finished, we married you to her. There were no witnesses, there was no wali. When the lady, our mother, radiallahu anha, when she heard that ayat, she didn't say, Ya Rasulullah, you sure where the witnesses? Ya Rasulullah. She didn't say that. She believed in the Quran. When the Quran said, we married you to her, she knew, I'm married at this point. So why would this companion, this lady, why would she say, Allah married me to him from above the 7 heavens? Because of those ayats of the Quran and those many ahadith that establish Allah Azza wa Jal is above. That's an understanding of the companions, and that's the point. Imam Ahmed has a book called Fadail as-Sahaba. Our Shaykh Usamah, Abu Usamah, Wasiullah Abbas, who, unlike many scholars, came to this area and he sat with the different parties and factions in Birmingham, a bona fide scholar of Ahlul Hadith. He has the biggest sitting and assembly in Mecca. People who speak Urdu, they sit in his class, and it's the biggest sitting on a weekly basis than any other scholar in Mecca. During the Hajj time or other than the Hajj time, some of the other ulama, the major scholars, come and they sit there and they get more people, but on a consistent basis, a daily basis, as Shaykh Wasiullah Abbas, may Allah give him shifa, has the biggest majlis. While he's sitting at the Kaaba, he's teaching the people from Indo-Pakistan at Tawheed in a nice way, in an easy way. He knows that in the audience are Brahwis and Deobandis and Maturidis and people who don't pray and people who have hocus pocus and people, and he's talking nice. And if you went there and you walked up to him after the class, you Abdullah, and you said, I came from Birmingham, Sheikh, can I come to your house? He'll say, welcome, and he won't turn you away. He did a book. He took care of Al-Imam Ahmed's book, Fadail as-Sahaba, the virtues of the Sahaba. That's a book by Al-Imam Ahmed. Tells us about the virtues of the Sahaba. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when Aisha was about to die, our mother Aisha, she was about to die. This hadith is in Fadail as-Sahaba. Abdullah ibn Abbas came to see Aisha before she died. He said, Ya al-Mu'mineen, Aisha, you were the most beloved wife of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as you know, he only loved what was pure. The fact that he loved you shows you're pure. You were the most beloved wife out of all of them. And you know that he only loved what is pure. And I tell you, Allah has revealed your innocence from above the 7 heavens. And Jibril has brought that ayat about you. And this ayat about your innocence will be read in every masjid during the day and the night by Allah. Go and meet your Lord. So the point here is Abdullah ibn Abbas, the companion of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the tarjuman of the Quran and his cousin, he said, Allah sent down your bara'ah from the sky. People now and people back then who accuse you of being a lewd woman and being someone who was not truthful to your husband sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah revealed your innocence in Surah Al-Ahzab. He revealed your innocence from above the 7 heavens. Why would Abdullah ibn Abbas say that? That's the understanding of the companion, Ya Abdullah. We're almost done here, Ikhwani. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And Imam al-Bukhari has multiple books. One of the books that he has is a book called At-Tarikh al-Kabir and At-Tarikh al-Saghir. And in those books, that's where he said that Al-Imam Abu Hanifa was weak. I'm only mentioning that because I had heard someone say, where did Al-Bukhari say that? This was never mentioned inside Al-Bukhari. Al-Imam al-Bukhari has different books. He has a book in which he defended the Aqidah of al-Islam, and he wanted to show against what the Jabariya say about the creation of the deeds of the people. Al-Imam al-Bukhari has a book about Raf'ul Yadayn. Al-Imam al-Bukhari has books in which he talks about narrators. He's good, he's bad, he's forgetful, he's this, he's that, he's that. In the book, Kitab al-Tarikh, Tarikh al-Kabir, Al-Imam al-Bukhari brought this narration, and it also finds part of this hadith in his Sahih as well. The famous incident when the Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That story is inside al-Bukhari. But this narration I'm about to share with you right now is not inside al-Bukhari, but it's in another book that Bukhari wrote that doesn't reach the level of the hadith of his condition. His book, Sahih al-Bukhari, has high conditions. Doesn't mean every hadith that's authentic is in that book. He just has a high condition. He has other books that bring authentic hadith, but they don't reach that condition in Sahih al-Bukhari. This is one of those hadith about the death of the Nabi that everyone knows about, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now what do you think? This hadith that we all know about. You already know what I'm about to mention. What Abu Bakr said when the Nabi died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our relatives come and they insist, no, he never died. He never died. And that's just Bani Adam. He just is an argumentative creature. He wants to argue, and that's it. When the Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Abu Bakr saw him, and he saw that he was dead, and he went out into the masjid, and he saw Umar radiallahu anhu threatening the people. He told Umar, sit down. He wouldn't sit down. He left him. He went and he stepped down the second step of the minbar. He faced the people and he said to the people, whoever worship Muhammad, then verily Muhammad has died. He's dead. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whoever worshiped Allah, then verily Allah is in the heavens and he doesn't die. من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات ومن كان يعبد الله فإن الله في السماء لا يموت. Allah is over the heavens and he doesn't die. He's living. He is al-Hayy. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, like Abdullah ibn Abbas, like Ibn Umar, like the rest of those people, why would he say that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not over the heavens? Now you, don't bring interpretations for these issues. Don't push these things away. Just bring us an ayat and explain to us Abu Bakr understood the ayat the way you're saying it. Umar understood the hadith the way you're saying it. All they have is explaining things away, introducing linguistic issues. That's all they have. They don't have any examples to show that the companion said this about this ayat or this about that particular hadith that will help you to understand that Allah Azza wa Jal wasn't the way that we've been mentioning. Lastly, ikhwani, Aisha radiallahu anha, and what was collected by Imam al-Darimi in his Sunan, Aisha said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Uthman was killed, Aisha said, verily Allah knows, and he is above the seven heavens on his throne, over his throne. Allah knows that I didn't like for Uthman to be murdered. Allah knows that I'm not happy with Uthman being murdered. And Allah knows that from above the seven heavens over his throne. Umar radiallahu anhu, in Al-Imam al-Dhahabi's book, Kitab al-Ulu, he said to the kings of the dunya, woe, 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 waylun, waylun, lidayan al-ard. Woe unto the kings of the earth. Woe unto them. Be afraid of the king of the heavens on the day that you meet him, meaning Yawmul Qiyamah. So these issues of where Allah is an issue that's not that complicated. I'll tell you this just as a personal experience. When I went to Medina and we started to deal in my first year with Kitab al-Iman by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, and our teacher was Shaykh Abdul Razak, the son of Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad. And they used to talk about al-Iman, and what the Murji'ah believed, and what these people believed, and what those people believed, and what they believed, and what they believed. I was sitting there as a new student who had been in Medina for 2 years at that point, and I was saying to myself inside of my head, I don't believe this. I don't believe that these people were saying all of this kalam about al-Iman. Al-Iman is just you saying, I believe in Allah and you don't have to do anything. I actually thought at that time, in the beginning of studying, I thought, it's the American arrogance, growing up in the West in America, it's that arrogance. I actually thought that the Saudi Arabian Arabs were just making up all of this kalam to extend the curriculum. Because it didn't make sense that believe in Allah and do the works and that's it. All of these people, he said that Murji'ah, they said that, the Khawarij, they said that, the Mu'tazila said that. These ones, I was sitting there and I was saying, man, I don't believe this. I think the Saudi Arabians, they just put this stuff in the curriculum. I don't believe this. Because the fitrah of a person, this kid as he grows up, he doesn't entertain all of that kalam, rhetoric. Who has the time to sit with people and all of that? You may have an individual who's twisted, he just doesn't know. Gave a lecture last Monday in King's College in London, one of the prestigious universities in this country. Institution of higher learning, many of the people are in the medical field. After the lecture, one of the intelligent brothers came and he said to me, why do we describe Allah as He in the Quran? Why is He described as He in the Quran? What can I say to something like that? What can I say? What can you say? He doesn't mean anything bad. He's just growing and developing. He never learned the religion. He never was a student of knowledge. So I asked him, what do you want? Allah to be described as she? He said, no, but why does He have to be He? I said, look, brother, I'm not getting into that discussion with you because you don't want it to be she. You just want to know why it's he. What kind of discussion is that? And that's what rhetoric does to its ashab. It makes you twisted and confused. Whereas the fitrah, it's like drinking the water. Take what the companions took and that's it. So lastly, Al-Imam Malik, rahimahullahu ta'ala, wa radiyallahu anhu, wa radiyallahu anna. Al-Imam Malik, he said, Allah's rising, His istiwa is known in the Arabic language. Al-istiwa means to elevate. It means to go up. How He went up and how He's there is unknown. We don't know that. And to believe in it is wajib because it's mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. And to ask about it is an innovation. And then he told the people, get this man out of the assembly. He's from the people of innovation. That thing that he's talking about is a disease. Don't let it be exposed to other people. Get him out of here. So you take that formula and you apply it to all of the characteristics of Allah. The hand of Allah, a hand in the Arabic language is known. How Allah's hand is, the details of it, what we were not told is unknown. Believing in it is wajib because it was mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. Asking about it is an innovation. Coming down, and nazul, coming down. The Arabs know what coming down means. It's known. How Allah comes down is not known. We don't know the details of that. Believing in it is wajib. Asking about it, trying to find out about it is an innovation. And on and on and on and on and on and on. Just use that formula about all of the names and the attributes of Allah. We describe Allah the way He described Himself, and we describe Allah the way the Prophet described Him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without explaining it away, without rejecting it, without changing the meaning, without destroying it, without making comparisons to His creation. Allah has a hand. Don't say the hand of Allah means His power. The hand of Allah means His rahmah. You change the meaning. Don't say Allah's hand is like our hand. You've made Allah like the human beings, and He said, nothing is like unto Him. His hand is not like your hand. Believe in it and don't go after it. And lastly, leave the jidal with these people alone. Leave these jidal, the debates and all of this kalam. First of all, many people who are debating a lot of times debates, they're not sincere. Then secondly, the person on the other side, he doesn't want the truth anyway. And then thirdly, it's possible that he can defeat you because he's more articulate, more intelligent than you. And the truth is compromised as a result of that. And number four, most of the times, the debate is not even warranted. It's not even needed. It's not that situation right now. There's no threat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the divine protection and make us ma'soomeen from these inhirafat. And may He subhanahu wa ta'ala establish us again firmly upon al-Islam and upon the Sunnah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.